Hey, how's it going? Hey, happy Saturday. How's everyone doing? Hopefully a little bit better than me. Not feeling too great. I think PC Geek asked earlier. Feeling kind of just a little down. But anyways, I'm feeling a lot better than I was the last couple days. So, how's everyone doing? Happy Saturday, man. Glad to see you guys. Some new names in here too, so I'll get to them here in a second. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy Saturday. I'll start off with weather. That's what I usually start out with because everybody I think can relate to the weather. Weather in the Midwest today, a little bit cooler than yesterday. Yesterday was cooler. Today's a little bit cooler. So we're hanging around in the 40s today, and it's almost May. It's I guess not unreasonable for Minnesota, but still uncommon, to say the least. But hey, at least we have some sun, and it's not all cloudy, and it's not rainy today. So I'll take it. I'll take it. I like cool, cloudy days anyway. So I don't know why I'm talking down on cool, cloudy days. Those are almost my favorite days. I like them more than sunny days. Believe it or not, it's kind of weird, but I do, because I can wear a hoodie, I can wear jeans, I can wear flannel, and be okay. Yeah. So, anyways, man, how's everyone doing? Happy Saturday. What are you guys working on? I know that, man, last time, all kinds of stuff. We talked about all kinds of stuff. We talked about how do we get started with my home lab? What should I do after I get my servers built? And I think we were ideating on things we can spin up, along with tons of other stuff, because the show is usually about what you guys are working on. So curious to know what you're working on. You guys probably may or may not know what I've been working on. The last week and a half was settling on my reverse proxy and getting things set up. And I know, so if you didn't see the video, that's okay, totally fine. I'll recap. But really, the last week and a half, I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to set up my reverse proxy. And some people might say, well, don't you have one in Kubernetes? Yes. Well, you also have one in Docker and Portainer? Yes. So I have two. So I have two reverse proxies. Might sound overkill, but I found that this is the best way for me to solve the problem that I have. And what's the problem that I have? Is that I have public services, and then I have private services. And I have this clear line where all of my public stuff happens on a separate VLAN, and there are very, very few holes poked through in the firewall to get off that untrusted network. And I mean, it's the most untrusted network you could think of. I'm not talking about IoT. I'm not talking about, it's pretty close to public Wi-Fi, but I'm not talking about IoT. I'm not talking about, just some other guest network in my house. I'm talking about the internet comes into my house in this network. So kind of like a DMZ. So anyways, I have this VLAN set aside that most of my public services run on, and all my public services are running in Kubernetes, and it's all there. And then so over the last couple of weeks, even months, I've been trying to figure out, okay, do I spin up another Kubernetes cluster? I want to reverse proxy internally so that I can use SSL and get rid of all these weird ports and self-signed certificate errors. And so I've really just been kind of ideating on what it would look like. And arguably not all of my internal services run in Kubernetes. So that's when I kind of settled on Docker Traefik, and it works pretty good. So anyways, I've been trying to figure that out, and it's been surprisingly fun. It kind of racked my brain for a little bit. It's different. It's pretty interesting though that Traefik they've gone after every kind of container orchestration or just containerization of network services that's out there. I mean, you can run Traefik in a container by itself with Docker. You can run it with Swarm. You can run it with Kubernetes. It's super interesting, and can't believe all of the thought and work that's gone into it. So anyways, that's what I've been working on. It's been super fun. I have SSL for almost everything in my house, everything I can think of except for one thing, and it's my own doing. And it's just one thing that I don't even have auth on. It's just some little utility I built for myself. I'm going to force myself to put auth on there, and then I'll put SSL in front of it. Other than that, it's pretty interesting, pretty fun. It's like awesome. One of my many Portainer servers has become a lot of my private services server, as well as my reverse proxy for everything. So it's awesome. They all hit that reverse proxy, and then they all terminate SSL there, and then they all go to my private services internally from there. Super awesome, and that's hence why the last couple of weeks too, I've been talking about, well, I'm going all in with DNS too, and setting up aliases. And so the biggest use case for an alias now for me, the number one request is my reverse proxy, because everyone is making a request to actually a DNS name, which is tied, well, an alias, which is tied to a DNS record. So it's pretty cool. It's coming together. I don't know. Is it a house of cards? I don't know. You tell me. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I put a lot of thought into it. I know it's not this crazy robust enterprise solution, but it's rock solid. And anyways, I can talk a lot about Traefik. I know not a lot of people used them. I've used other things than before. In the past, Nginx Proxy Manager, all fine products. HA Proxy, I've used them all fine products. I just recently, I've been on this Traefik kick, and I like that it's a container first, and so I kind of dig that. I kind of dig containers. So, anyways, really quick before we get into what you guys are working on, looks like there was a couple follows earlier. Thank you so much. Let me talk about those really quick before I forget. So real quick, hey, and there's another one right there. Hey, thank you so much. So wow, there's a couple of them. I should call that out more often. Hey, thank you. I'll call those out first. Winters, 2055. Hey, thanks for follow. Appreciate it. You guys get to hear my 8-bit music probably really loud. I forget how loud it is on the other end. In my ears, it's not that loud. So anyways, thanks for follow. Really appreciate it. It really helps. It does. And Hans Bauer, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. And then there were a couple more earlier, right before we started. Dr. 0714, thanks for follow, appreciate it. Battle Kafer, thanks for follow, appreciate it. And Mock7788, thanks for follow, appreciate it. So yeah, let me know what you guys are working on. I know that you guys are always working on the most awesome stuff, and I've said this before, but a lot of my inspiration comes from you guys. So if you're working on something, want to share something, let me know. If you need help with something, if one of my videos didn't make sense, let me know. If you just want to share something in general, as long as it's family friendly, feel free to share. But anyways, the question that people want to know: who is first? PC Geek here first, present and accounted for. Yeah. I will say this too. I say this. I've said this not last time, but the time before. I do. Going to be a little bit shorter today. I need to set a timer so that I can focus on the time, but I do need to cut a little bit early, mainly because I'm not feeling the greatest. It's totally fine. I'll play it off. I shouldn't even have mentioned it, but I got to wrap up some stuff too. But anyways, PC Geek just installed a bike rack on my RV trailer bumper. Nice, man. You're going all out with this RV. We've been vicariously living through you the last couple of weeks through this RV purchase, and we keep talking about all the cool tech you can put in it, but you need the essentials. You need a bike rack in there for sure, absolutely for sure. Because when you park that RV, then you hit the trails and you get a bike. Yeah, man. So how's it going, PC Geek? Yo, what's up? Let's go. Yeah. I am feeling better for sure, but not 100%. I'd say about 60, 70. Sorry, glasses were extra dirty. Yeah, that's what I said earlier. If you weren't here in the intro, I was like cleaning my glasses forever. For some reason, today's the day I usually clean my glasses. I figured out why it was. The pattern is I don't do much during the week. Friday nights, we usually go and grab some food from somewhere. That's the one time I'm outside for more than 10 minutes, and then rain and everything gets on my glasses. Then when I get home, I just take them off, and then Saturday comes, and now they're dirty, and I got to clean them. So I figured out the pattern. Couldn't figure that out for a while. Why are my glasses dirty? Saturday morning. It doesn't make any sense, but I figured it out. Takano, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Mathne, boo. I assume the boo is for because you weren't first? I don't know. But that's totally fine if not. PC Geek, too many ones and zeros clogging up the lenses. Oh, yeah. There's a lot that streams through these. And admittedly, I have to take them off sometimes. I used to wear them more, actually, when I didn't work from home because I couldn't always control the depth of everything. But I found now that working from home, I can take them off for long periods of time because I'm sitting, foot and a half from my monitor. Probably not the greatest, and I should probably still wear them. But you know how that goes if you wear glasses. Sometimes you just don't want them on. So yeah, what are you guys working on? That was my question out to you guys. Felicity, Alphonse, yeet. No server installs and your recent video, new server installs and recent video on local SSL. Nice, yeah. So new servers. Let me know what kind of servers. And it's plural to new server installs. Okay, gotcha. Single server. Curious what it is. I have the itch to build something with hardware. I keep convincing myself to, trying to convince myself to buy something, to build something, but I just haven't had that killer feature or a killer thing that I need yet. I have two things in mind. I won't go into them, but I have two things in mind. I need to find the right thing for it. I know the job it'll do, but I need to find the right hardware before I do make another purchase. But might be coming in the next month or two, because I'm seeing some. I'm definitely seeing some gaps in a couple more things. And the video on local SSL, nice. Yeah, hopefully this one's pretty straightforward. I supplied all of my config. I was just like, here, have it all. And the cool thing about it is I did spend some time figuring out how to get it to work with Proxmox. Kind of a challenge, getting it to work with Pi-hole, with pushing the middleware path of /admin in the path, figured all that out. I mean, it's probably pretty easy stuff for someone who's done it before, but for me, it was Googling and figuring out and trial and error for many hours on all of these different services. So hopefully it works out okay. Yeah, bot's working. I hope it's still working. Yeah, it should be. Zoid25, Jenkins pipeline to deploy K3D as staging environment and running tests before pushing changes into my K3S cluster. Nice. Let me think about this for a minute. So you're using Jenkins to deploy K3D as a staging environment and running tests before pushing changes in a K3S cluster. Nice. Is it, when you say you're pushing changes and testing, are you testing like your infrastructure? Or are you testing code? Because I run my code in Kubernetes and I run it in pipelines in GitLab, but I'm familiar with Jenkins too, Drone. I've used a lot of CI systems. But I'm curious, like, are you actually, when you say pushing changes, are you pushing Kubernetes changes, or are you pushing code changes and then testing that code or those workloads that are running in that environment? Because that's super interesting if you're pushing infrastructure changes and source controlling your infrastructure like that and pushing it through the pipeline. That's super, super duper interesting, for sure. AnyBlast, draining my wallet again and buying too much tech. Yeah, I hear you. That was me a couple of months ago. I kind of slowed down a little bit, focusing more on software and services. But it's going to hit me again here soon. I know it is. And plus, I always get the itch around November. That's a ways away. But I hear you. It gets pricey, especially now. Things are pretty expensive. Hopefully, things go back down as things open up and production opens up. Felicity, Alphonse, AnyBlast, when aren't we? I just bought my two. Oh, there's your servers. Two R540s. So my wallet is hurting. Yeah, I have no idea how much they cost. Probably not cheap. 540s, are those 1Us? I can't remember. Those 1Us or are they 2Us or bigger? I'm thinking they are. Maybe not. Quinn, hey, how's it going, man? Lately, all I buy is books. Nice. Yeah, I wish I could say the same. But yeah, sounds like good purchases. You can't go wrong. Try buying a travel trailer. Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, you got to take out a pretty big loan for something like that most of the time. Felicity Alphonse, Mobile Home Lab. I like it. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Mobile Home Lab. That's what we keep telling PC Geek. We're all living vicariously through him, and we're saying, yeah, let's put antennas on it, and let's put servers in it, and things come up like interesting ideas like APs and Plex streaming and mobile hotspots with Plex servers running on Raspberry Pis. It's all come up. But yeah, that's the first thing I would go after. You need some general purpose stuff like, microwaves, tables, chairs, but I would go after the tech first, maybe not. I don't know. PC Geek 70s here in the Northeast. Nice, man. You guys are getting some nice weather. Yeah, send it here. 70s is pretty okay. It's borderline getting kind of warm for me. I like it cool. I'm about a 50, 60 person all day. It's fine. Maybe even a little bit chillier at night so I can wear a coat. Not Kellen. Hey, not Kellen. Hey, Tim. How was your day? Hey, my day's going pretty good so far. Yeah, it's almost my typical Saturday. Get up, check on, release my video, check on stats, do socials. This time I had a lot of documentation to push up. So I have to coordinate that because I'm like, do I push it up before, the video's out? And I'm like, well, then people will see it, but not many people are watching that repo anyways. So haven't figured that out yet. At some point, I'm going to figure out how to schedule commits and commit pushes. I'll probably do it in a container so I can stage my code that backs my videos and have it go out at the same time, so I don't have to actually push the code up myself with a button. Or I could have a private repo, merge it in. There's lots of ways to solve it, but anyways, it's going pretty good so far. Kind of laid back. I have a short list of things I need to do today, but looking forward to doing that. It's a little bit different. Hey, 22 Axel, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. How's it going? Hansber, hey man, good. Finally catch you live. Hey, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Felicity Alphonse, Minnesota life means I leave my windows open for server cooling. Yeah, I totally could. I totally could. I think about that a lot. Like, how can I just, get a little bit more efficiency out of my servers and even take advantage of some of this cooler air? I mean, don't get me wrong. It gets hot here in the summer. It gets hot and humid like anywhere else in the United States and a lot of other places in the world. We'll get 100, whatever, and we'll have 80% humidity. Sometimes we're higher than the Amazon rainforest a few times. It gets pretty humid. I don't know if it's all the lakes or what. But yeah, during the winter, I'm just like, okay, it's negative 20 outside. How can I take advantage of that? I think about that stuff a lot. Like, I think about weird stuff too. Like it's cold outside and then we heat our house, but then we have a refrigerator to keep our food cold. So it's like cold, hot, cold. Like, haven't we figured out how to take advantage of some of this yet? Maybe not efficiently or effectively, but hopefully. I don't know. I feel like there's some synergies going on there. Yeah, so Hansberg, weather is great in the Netherlands. Nice. What's great? Probably something in Celsius that I'll do terrible at converting. But I'm glad the weather is great. Battle Kafer, working on Ansible deployment of Proxmox VMs from template. Nice. I haven't done that yet. A few people have asked. Few people in a Discord community have even created playbooks to do that. I haven't done it. I would love to see it. If you're willing to share that openly, yeah, totally share it in our Discord server because I would love to see it. I would love to see more of how to do that. I do it not super jank, but kind of jank. It's just I have a template, I clone it, and then I run Ansible scripts afterwards. So hey, Rodison, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Lemonade Jetpack, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome guys. So mine's not super jank, but it's, not fully automated. I do have to click clone. I do have to wait. I do have to power it on. There's a couple, knobs and things I have to turn. And then after that, and then I run Ansible scripts afterwards to prepare it for the rest of my network. But there's still a handful of things I manually do. So I would love to see that. Hansberg, I've currently got a 1 by 36 terabyte TrueNAS, 1 by 8 terabyte Synology, and 1 test server going for Docker. Wow. That's pretty awesome. So 1 36 terabyte TrueNAS, wow, and 8 terabyte Synology and 1 test server. Sounds super awesome. Awesome. 36 terabytes. Is that usable or is that total disk raw? I bet it's raw, but I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong because that sounds awesome. Simber, hey, thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hey, thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Speaking of TrueNAS, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Man, I had 2 disks fault this morning. So speaking of how my morning is also going, I don't know if you guys use TrueNAS. I'm sure a lot of you do, and how you guys deal with disk faults. But it's kind of scary. It is to me. Mainly because it's like, why is my disk faulting anyways? Is it something transient or is it real? Is it something I need to address? Well, the answer is yes, I need to address it. I have to either figure out how to clear the zpool errors or take that disk offline, have it resilver. It's kind of dreadful. And so anyways, since the last update could be a fluke, I've had 4 to 6 disk faults, and it could be a sign of a bad disk. Who knows? But the 4 times it's been the same disk, 1 time it was just some other random disks. So I don't know. I have to figure that out too. It's kind of scary. it's kind of scary. But otherwise, it's a totally fine product. It could be my disks. I don't know why I'm trying to blame software, but I guess it was fine yesterday, but that makes no sense ever for anything. But yeah, so kind of figured that out. That's on my short list today is figure out what's going on with my disks. Hans, started about 3 months ago with Synology. Nice. I keep hearing great things about Synology. I'd love to at some point just have one somewhere, just to be able to have another on-site backup. And for me, maybe that another on-site backup means another TrueNAS, which it probably will be. But Synology, I don't know. I'm just fascinated by those devices. I hear they're rock solid, super nice. A lot of people have them. They're super popular. I mean, I'm a huge fan of custom build and building your own. But if I weren't going to, I would definitely look at one for sure. Yeah, good to know. Pizza Geek, nice. Not Kalen. I'm upgrading 1 gigabit per second line in the next month. We currently have an Amplify HD mesh network, not digging the wireless backbones. Should I upgrade to Unify? By the way, Amplify is another brand of wireless from Ubiquiti. It's really depends and it's really going to be up to you. I'm not familiar with Amplify. I'm very familiar with Unify. I'm a huge fan, and I use it here. And I will say though that their software it gets a lot of criticism, but at the same time they've been revving like super duper fast the last month and a half. It seems like there's a release every 5 days. I'm like, who is this company? When I bought this device, I get maybe one update a month. Now I'm getting one every like 5 days. Albeit some of them are bugs that they fixed or they released a bug, but I'm okay with that. There's always bugs in software. It's how you react to them. And if they're making a release the day after to fix a bug they released yesterday, I'm all cool with that because it's better than waiting, until the next release train when you get the next release. But yeah, it depends on what you want. And, so when I had to make this decision to kind of revamp my network, I wanted to buy into, I guess, an ecosystem, and that could be good or bad, and, if you're already using Amplify devices, you're probably thinking the same thing. Like, how can I lean into some of this SDN stuff that they have, the software-defined networking stuff, to be able to, deploy and control my software as a whole versus one tiny piece. And that's what I was really interested in Unify. And I'm sure Amplify has something similar. Maybe not. But I mean, if you're going for something like that, I mean, unless you're a network engineer, a network administrator, I think Unifys are really great devices. And I'm sure there are network admins and network engineers who also think they're great devices, but they're not at the level of something like pfSense. I mean, you're not going to be able to tweak every single setting. It's I don't want to say it's a totally closed box because it's running Debian and Podman, and you can script and do whatever you want. I mean, it's just like a server. But at the end of the day, they're releasing that software. It's not open source. And there's less knobs to turn. And personally, I appreciate that because then that's less things I have to worry about or maintain myself. Anyways, I'm going on way too long, but it's I'm not familiar with amplified devices, so I can't make a sound judgment whether it's a good or decent decision or comparison against Ubiquiti or Unify as a whole. Pizza Geek Guide, stick with what works. Yeah, that's the wrap it up button right there. That's what I should have said. Not killing, thanks. Hey, Tim, just watched your video on Wildcard. You got one dislike, maybe cybersecurity guy. Wildcard gets you one crypto key only. Okay, I see. Yeah, and so you don't have to use wildcards. And so I did that because I don't want to generate one certificate per devices or one certificate per device or per endpoint, however you look at it. I purposely chose a wildcard because it's going to be the certificate for all of my internal devices. It's I terminate that SSL into my reverse proxy. I have alias setups for all of my services. I point to there, it terminates, and it's my traffic goes through that tunnel over the wire. And so yeah, I totally get it. You don't have to use wildcards only though. And on some of my other services, I used to not, but I do now. Mainly because I own 7 or 8 domains. And then on top of that, I might have 5, 6, 7 endpoints per domain. And I didn't want all of those requests to go out to Let's Encrypt because they throttle you. You only get so many requests per day, per hour, per month. Before you get 429s, and 429 is just it's a HTTP status code usually for like you're exceeding your API quota. That's what it boils down to. So Let's Encrypt has a quota on how many calls you can make, success and fails, before they just stop dealing with you, and they give you 429s. I think 429s is what they use. It should be. That's what most APIs use. But anyways, I don't mind thumbs down. It's totally fine. If someone doesn't like what I put out, totally fine. Yeah, give it a thumbs down. I was looking at it too. I saw the one this morning. Don't get me wrong, but still, my stuff's not for everyone, and someone can do it for. They don't like the way I talk. They don't like the way anything. Could be anything. So I do wish there was a feedback button though that they could just put in a comment and hit send and maybe tell me why they didn't want it. If only that feature exists. And it's comments, but I get it. You can remain anonymous. You can hit thumbs down. It's there for a reason. And I'm glad it's there too. Some social networks don't have thumbs down. It's all thumbs up. So anyways, but yeah. It's totally fine. 1 gigabit internet is so fast, PC Geek. It is. I have that option. I haven't done it. I have 300 up, 300 down. I still can never saturate 300 up, 300 down. I don't want to say impossible, but I would have to be doing some crazy stuff because most of the time either people can't push it over 300 to me or even close to 300 or they can't accept, that much for me. I guess if I was downloading, my whole Xbox game catalog again or Steam catalog, yeah, that would be great. Because then I'd be like, yeah, this is awesome. Or if I had, my backups, they can actually accept them that fast. Or if I had to pull down, if my TrueNAS totally crapped out today and I had to do a restore from cloud, that would kind of suck. And so I would probably pay for gigabit internet for 1 month. Just to download that faster, because the difference in cash would more than pay for the time to get me back up and running. But yeah, it is so fast. It would totally saturate my whole entire network, though. That's another thing, though, too. My network, all of my devices here are gigabit at most. But yeah, it's super interesting to think about. It is. Why do you choose Docker traffic over Kubernetes traffic? Hans, yeah. So I think I kind of touched on that a little bit. It's not that I choose one over the other. It's that I have a different architecture for my services, depending on whether they're in public or private. And so my private stuff, for the most part, is in Docker. Some of my private stuff used to be in Kubernetes. I moved it to Docker now because I want to figure out what my V3 of my infrastructure looks like. I think I'm on V2 since I started doing this. Publicly V2, I guess, is what I'm at now. And so all of my public services are in the DMZ. They're, DMZ air quotes. They're on a VLAN it's dirty. It's untrusted. It's internet can come in there, on 443.80, whatever ports I poke open. And the rest of my network, it pretty much can't. There are a couple exceptions. You guys know for port forwarding, sometimes you have to do it. And so I made a clear choice to say, okay, like if my reverse proxy for my Kubernetes infrastructure is Traefik, and most of my Kubernetes infrastructure serves public services, I'm just going to compartmentalize it and say this is my reverse proxy for Kubernetes workloads. And I didn't want to cross the streams. I used to cross the streams. And I'll talk about that a little bit. I used to cross the streams, and I had two versions of Traefik running in Kubernetes. I had an internal version of Traefik I called my internal reverse proxy, and then I had an external one. And that's kind of why you see in the video the naming still for my DNS is because I had an internal and external one. But what I found is that those workloads, that Traefik internal that was a workload in Kubernetes was in a different VLAN. And so what I ended up having to do is have my private services on some of my more trusted VLANs go across into the untrusted VLAN and then back. And I was like, this works. and I can make it work, but I don't want to set up 1,000, network firewall rules. I don't want to have to worry about these firewall rules because, some might be common ports like 443, 80, right? And so if I'm on my trusted network, I'm hitting a reverse proxy in my untrusted network and then coming back to my trusted network for something, for me, browsing the internet or the browser that I'm on. I just didn't feel like that was a great separation of concerns. And so that's when I decided, okay, well, I need to separate my concerns and say, hey, public facing stuff, things that, have incoming traffic from the internet or public workloads, I'm just going to keep those in this Kubernetes cluster over here. And for the time being, I'm going to move some of my other private workloads for my home services into a Docker container using Portainer, and I have many of those. And then I was like, okay, well, what happens with my reverse proxy? And I went through Nginx Proxy Manager. I tried a lot of different things, and I was like, I kind of like and understand how Traefik works, and I like that Traefik, had its container first, and I like that I could just apply labels to containers, and they would automatically use a proxy. There was no additional configuration. There was no additional firewall rules. I didn't have to do anything anywhere except for add some labels to Docker Compose or to that Docker container when it started up. And obviously I had to create the Docker network called proxy, but then add, 10 labels or something, lots of labels. But at the end of the day, it's version controlled and it's in code and it's in YAML. So I don't care. It's copy paste and apply it. And then Docker Compose up, and force recreate or recreate the workload with labels, and boom, it now is also SSL enabled. So anyways, I maybe that's it's kind of what I talked about earlier, but that's why I did it. And so it's not, I'm not abandoning one. I'm doing both. I'm doing both. And so that's why a lot of times you'll see sometimes I'm gun ho on Portainer stuff, and sometimes I'm gun ho on Kubernetes and Rancher stuff. Is because I do both. And I do both. And that's kind of how I've been kind of separating this in my head, is to treat my public stuff like enterprise and my home stuff, a little less enterprisey, only because I don't have the hardware to do it. Because I could spin up another cluster and create tons of firewall rules. But I don't want to exceed the capacity of my servers. Not that I'm that close, but RAM, if I'm close in anything, it's not compute, it's not disk space, it's RAM. So I have 256 gigs in each server. And it's about 70%. So if I'm going to add, 6 more servers for a Kubernetes cluster to run my personal stuff, and then, personal stuff arguably uses more resources than my public stuff. A lot of my public stuff is just web stuff, bots, you name it, websites, web services, APIs. But a lot of my home stuff is very intensive stuff. It's a Plex, it's a Pi-hole, it's and that's not intense, but use a lot more RAM than the 20 megabytes I'm used to it using with Node or something like that, or any framework. So yeah. Anyways, and as you grow, you might start to figure stuff like that out too. Not that you'll ever, you may never host anything publicly, but you might sometime. You might want your blog there. You might want your notes there. You might want Bitwarden there. You might want, something there that's actually exposed to the internet. And that's when I think you'll have to start to make that decision. Okay, well, this guy has, traffic coming in from the public. Well, how do I protect myself from that? Well, the first step is get all of that on a different network that doesn't have access to your protected network or your trusted network. And then, the next step is, you're just going to keep layering that stuff. But I think eventually you'll end up running into what I ran into. It's like, now I need 2 reverse proxies because I don't want to do the back and forth from, I keep saying clean and dirty. It sounds weird. But trusted to untrusted, back to trusted. And while I was able to poke just enough holes through, I'm still not happy or satisfied or even okay with, opening port 443 on my trusted network for individual servers. And then you think about it, okay, it wasn't just one server either, because it's in Kubernetes, that Traefik reverse proxy for my public services could be running on any one of those nodes. So now it's like, okay, now I have a firewall rule that's all of my Kubernetes agents, 7 of them, because traffic could spin up on any one of those. Technically, it's 4, but 4, and now I gotta do create a firewall rule for this group of IP addresses and this port. And so I found myself doing that way too much, and that's where I was like, okay, it's might be a little bit more infrastructure on this side, but it's a lot less firewall rules and it's a lot cleaner. So yeah, anyway, sorry I went on for a while about that, but these are all the things I've been thinking of over the last couple of weeks, and this is what I'm settling on now. But yeah, I'd love to know your feedback. If you found a better way, absolutely let me know. Blade Dev, hey, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Welcome, how's it going? And Matt Game, hey, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Welcome. I called out the sub from Simber. I did. I remember only one of my lights flashed, only that one. But thanks again. Thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. A little bit out of it today. And my voice, if you can't tell, it's a little raspy. A little raspier than normal. Starting to sound like my older brother. Not Kellen. Sure, makes sense. I do most of my heavy work on computers that run over the Ethernet, so it should be fine. But I'd love to have fast speeds over Wi-Fi for my fam's phone and tablets. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I have a ton of wireless clients. I think last count, I had 32 off of one AP. And on top of that, I have another AP that's in my garage, and I built a wireless bridge. And in the garage, there's 3 cameras. So my APs, you can ask most people, Unify APs are rock solid. And I think it's a good entry point for most people who get into Unify. It's like, oh, I have an AP now. What can I do? But mine have been pretty solid. And I even have, I have cameras, doorbells, you name it. And they're all running off that. I think I have 32 clients if you count my IoT devices and everything else, which is, it's kind of a lot. And that's just wireless. I think last count I had 82 devices or things on my network requesting DNS. So it seems crowded, but it's not really. But I totally get it. Again, I'm not familiar with Amplify. They should be pretty good. I mean, most access points that are being, created today are relatively good, are really good, I guess I should say, compared to all-in-ones. When you get either when you rent or you get an all-in-one device, they got to save on cost, so they skimp on something. What's that something? It's, maybe it's cheaper chips or antennas, who knows? But should be fine. But if you're not getting decent speeds, yeah, I would investigate first before making a purchase, because most of the time dedicated APs are pretty great. Any blast? Well, 2 540s. Guess I should not complain. Yeah, it's probably pretty expensive. Winters. Hey, how's it going? Hey, Tim and Chat, how's it going? Hey. Lots of haze. PC Geek. Hello, Tim and Chat. Sorry, Budney. How's it going? Good to see you. PC Geek, not Kellen, for sure. I don't want the fam jumping in and saying, hey, the Wi-Fi is slow again. Yeah, I totally agree. I still get that. I say it myself sometimes too. It's never my AP. It's something else. It's like, oh, my ISP, I'm getting throttled or something's going on for some reason. But yeah, that's not fun when you have to start troubleshooting that stuff. I mean, it's kind of fun at first, but most of the time it's so transient. By the time you can actually test it and figure it out, it's usually gone. Point-to-point tests between clients is super fun to do. And I won't keep talking about Unify, but there's this thing called Wi-Fi, man. It's really awesome. It's an app on your phone. It's an app on anything. And you can do a point-to-point test between 2 devices on the same network. Super awesome. And it'll log the results to your if you have a UDM or whatever you have, your network controller. And you can do single test or point-to-point test. It's super awesome. Anyways, 5KR1P7. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. How you doing? Let's see. Rodison finally made it. Hey, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Takano, 10.2 channel points. Oh, yeah. I got to come up with the 10K channel points. I don't know what it is. I got to come up with it. I still have an idea about something else I want to do back there. Very similar to that down there, to my other Raspberry Pi, but a lot bigger. And so if I do that, that might be a little bit more points. I got to find the right Actually, I know what I want to do. It's like a bigger marquee display like that, except for I know the hardware I need to drive it. I got to find the right frame. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll make it. I'm terrible. I'm okay at IKEA hacks, but not good at making things from scratch. So maybe I'll look for an IKEA hack for something. Lawrence at home, working on Unbound DNS in Proxmox LSC. Nice. Unbound DNS. Yeah, I just set mine up a couple of days ago. I was like, why not? Let's go for it. It was super straightforward. Ran a couple tests and it worked. I was like, that was way easy. I don't know why I haven't been doing that in a while. Why I haven't been doing that in a while. But I did it on Pi-hole, but very similar. I mean, if you're doing it on anything else, you install it, you supply a config, and then you apply it. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's how easy it was for me. Mural, trying to fill in my StarTech rack. Nice. Yeah. Go slow. Cause it's easy to get ideas and fill it up. And then you're like, well, I need a bigger rack now. So make wise choices or get fillers like shelves. So then they can be replaced one day with servers. But nice. What StarTech rack did you get? How big? How tall? Mine's only 18, so it's probably bigger than that. Mine's about waist high to me. iChoice. Keyless. Hi Tim. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. iChoice. My Arch Linux LXC on Proxmox imploded. Oh man. Oh, that kind of stinks. I'm sorry. Yeah, that stinks. Hope you got backups. You got backups, right? Yeah. Winter 2055. What do you do as a software engineer? Yeah, good question. Let me grab a drink because my throat is super dry. Giving you the play-by-play on let me grab a drink. What do I do as a software engineer? I build software. No. So I work for a small startup. We're in the digital grocery space. But what do I actually do on a day-to-day? I do a lot. I do front-end React stuff. I do mobile with React Native. I do back-end with TypeScript and Node.js. I do some database stuff with Postgres. What else? Lots of Kubernetes stuff. Lots of CI stuff. I mean, it's a startup, so there's no shortage of work. And no shortage. Well, there are shortage of roles, so you end up having to wear many hats. So. Yeah, lots of different stuff. Lots of fun, cool stuff. We're like 99.99% in the cloud, so that's super awesome too. We don't manage a lot of infrastructure. That's, that can go either way, but it's super nice to not be able to have to worry about patching stuff and all of the normal stuff you get with servers. And that's why I get a lot of my infrastructure fixed at home. But yeah, lots of code. It's basically solving a lot of problems, maybe not even problems, challenges with code and trying to deliver some value to people who pay for the software or the service. How about that? Super generic, but that's how it is as a whole. But my day-to-day is code. Normally it's what it is. It's a lot of code, but I love it. I enjoy it. I love the company I work for. I love what I do. And I love solving problems, and I love working for a startup too, because it's small. We've grown quite a bit over the last year, especially. But I couldn't ask for a better job or a better career, I guess I should say right now. So super fun. Yeah, thanks for asking, Winner. Hope I'm new. Hi, Tim. Hey, how's it going? How you doing, man? How's everything? Rodison, after watching your YouTube vids, I took the plunge and bought a Dell R720. Nice, man. Ooh, you stepped it up. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is kind of where the rabbit hole begins, I think, is going all out and getting a server, because then it's like, awesome, got a rack mount server. I didn't have a rack yet, so I should probably get a rack. Then I probably need a UPS. And then, whoa, I have this big rack now. What am I going to put in it? I'll rack my network equipment. Okay, so, I don't have a rack mount switch. Let's get one of those. How do I rack my modem? I'll figure it out. I'll print it and put it in there. The rabbit hole begins, and it never really ends. If it ends, then you start thinking about how you either replace, upgrade, or decommission or consolidate. It never ends, but it's super fun. It's one of the most enjoyable hobbies I've had my entire life. I mean, I've had some other ones, but it's one of the best, because you get to learn, you get to stay abreast of a lot of different technologies. And like I've said a few times, I mean, you get to be the system administrator, the network administrator, the systems engineer, the DevOps engineer. You get to be all of that in your own environment at home, and it's super fun. And that can go both ways. Like sometimes, yeah, you might have a different SLA with your family. Hopefully, they're pretty forgiving. And I know my wife is. I mean, I've destroyed networks. I've deleted all of our recorded TV before. Internet's been down. She's had to use the internet from my phone for 4 hours. I've done it all, and she's super patient. She's a saint. But yeah, I'm sure your family will understand too. Rodison, nope, read that. Takano, doing some cleaning and organizing of myself. Sorry, I'm not like, can't read. Doing some cleaning and organization of myself of boxes. Myself of boxes. Oh man, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan of cleaning and box organization stuff. I don't mind organization as long as I have a place, as long as I have something to put it in and then a place to put that thing. It's when I don't have something to put that thing in or a place to put it that I'm kind of like, ooh, this is not fun anymore. Diabetes Tech. Hello from Portugal. Hey, how's it going? I have a 9-year-old daughter who has type 1 diabetes. She uses a web-based platform on Node.js and MongoDB. Nice. It's called Night Scout. I'm preparing everything to have this resource at home privately. I'm looking for the best solution. I'm based on Windows and it works well. I don't know Node.js and MongoDB. Can have a Docker system? What do you think? Yeah, so this is a lot of what I do. This is a lot of what I do, and a lot of my services that are here are just that. They're Node.js and they're MongoDB, at least for some of my services. Yeah, absolutely. So I think I understand. You basically want to containerize some kind of service that's running in Node.js and MongoDB. Yes, so absolutely possible. I mean, I'm just curious, like, is this a desktop application that you install? Is this a service you get from somebody, or is this something open source that you can actually see the code and put it inside of a container, or do they supply a container for you? I'd be, super interested if they would actually give you the code, especially since it's somebody's probably paying for it. But to answer your question about containerizing Node.js, absolutely. I think I have 20 or 30 Node.js containers. Super easy. If you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, that's totally fine too. I have some examples. I have lots of examples on my GitHub repo of how to put Node.js code inside of a container and build and deploy that in CI. And so if you don't need CI, totally fine. You could build a container on your own desktop too. Windows has great support for Docker, as does Linux, Mac, anything. I typically do it in CI because the next thing I'm going to do is put it in my Kubernetes cluster. Totally fine, totally awesome. If you need some examples, go to my GitHub page. It's GitHub Techno-Tim. There's one in there. There's one called Broadlink in there. No, that one's on Python. There's one in there for Node.js, I believe. If there's not, there's ones on React for front end. But if not, ping me in Discord too, because I can share. I'll share my code with you. At least my CI process on how I build Docker containers and put Node.js code inside of there. Super easy. I'm sure I shared it in our Discord server too. But it's only a couple lines of YAML or CLI commands if you're going to do it on your own machine. It's super easy. It's just Node, install your dependencies, take those dependencies and copy those inside of a Node Docker container. Set your startup command to run your Node.js file. Set some ports, maybe some environment variables, and boom, it's in a container. So you can spin that code up anywhere. MongoDB, it runs great. It's already containerized. You can go out to Docker Hub or anywhere, wherever they're hosting it now. I think it's still Docker Hub. There's a MongoDB container. You pass in some environment variables that are probably username, password, and a couple other things, maybe ports, some account information to seed that database with, and you'll have a MongoDB server running in 5 minutes or less. But yeah, totally possible. And that's what I do. Real quick, Omniscient 999, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Control CS1X, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Welcome, how you doing? Zoe 25, both YAML changes as well as code updates to the application I run. Sonar Cube is part of the test that I run. Oh, so this is going back to your CI and CD for Kubernetes infrastructure. Interesting. So that's super awesome. So using Jenkins to deploy your K3D or your K3S, your Kubernetes infrastructure to a lower environment to then probably then push that into your production environment. That's awesome. That is awesome. That's super awesome. I haven't done any of that. I haven't done any of that. I mean, most of the time, well, I manage my own Kubernetes here, and then and I use Kubernetes in the cloud, which is already managed. But that sounds awesome. I would love to have a little bit more control like that. I mean, I've updated K3S here at home. It's super easy with Rancher, but it's not in CI. It's all UI. I say, hey, I want K3S version 120 plus S1 or their weird naming, their versioning, and then it rolls out. But I would love something a little bit more controlled. It would totally be Inception because my CI runs in Kubernetes. So that probably wouldn't be a good idea. Either that or that job would just die. But hopefully it would come back. But doing a Kubernetes upgrade within Kubernetes sounds right up my alley. Awesome. Sounds awesome, man. Dell R540 is 2U. Oh, I was so wrong. I was hoping it was a 1U. I know in the 200s they're a 1U. Diabetes Tech. I have a HP microserver G7 NL40 with Windows Server 2012 R2. Nice. Yeah, nice. Pretty awesome. Awesome. I miss doing Windows Server stuff. I need to get back into it. I need to get some more licenses. Because I would love to run, I got a couple ideas, but I want to have one node in my Kubernetes cluster that's running Windows in my Kubernetes and Rancher cluster so that I can run some Windows apps, within that cluster and hopefully do some cool stuff. So yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing. 22 axle Plex is secure. Yeah. So I was going back to my trusted versus untrusted. And so my Plex is on my trusted network. Is Plex secure? I don't know. Yeah, sure. Not really. I mean, okay, I won't go there. I see what you're getting at. But at the same time, I treat my networks, not that I fully trust everything that Plex does. It's just that on my trusted network, I allow other machines to communicate with other trusted devices within that network. So I put like things together. So is it secure? That's totally up to you. But I'm not saying it's secure. I just put it on my trusted network because it makes it a little bit easier for some of my devices to communicate with it. Although there are other things that are on my untrusted network that should probably be on my trusted network. Arguably, I put my Xbox on my untrusted network, mainly because I was like, can I figure this out? Will it work with everything? And it does. And the same with my Apple TV, which arguably it kind of seems backwards. But I did put both of those devices on my IoT network, which is less trusted, I guess I should say, than my full trust network. But I went with that route because I wanted to see if I could do it. I figured I'll put everything over there that I can't install antivirus or monitor or have logging for, or basically an operating system where I have absolutely no control, is kind of going in that network, and then I'll figure it out from there. And I figured it out for Xbox, my Steam machine, a lot of different things on my network. I just said, yeah, you're IoT, and if I can't really know what's going on inside of you, then if I can't open up a terminal, look at your logs, then you're going on that network. But Plex I can. So it's just this game I play in my head with how much inspection or introspection can I do on this service for logs, and how does patching work, and that's how I bucket things and decide where they go and what they need access to too. But I err on the side of, if I can't look at your logs and I can't manage your patches and updates, then you're going on my IoT network. If you're a device from someone else who manages it, that's where you're going. Hey, real quick, Tented Bob Cat Gamer. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. And Alex Zam, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. But yeah, totally. Yeah, throw darts at this. I totally agree. Poke holes at it. I do use Plex, and Jellyfin, great product. But yeah, feel free to poke holes at stuff I use. I love it. I love it when people challenge my ideas and my thoughts, because it makes me think, makes me reconsider sometimes too. PC Geek, I agree. I like it cooler too. 70 is my top as long as it's dry. Once it's humid and everything above 60 is terrible. Yeah, all right, man. We're totally bros here then, because that's me too. Like anything, 70 is kind of my borderline. 70 with sunshine is, kind of getting kind of warm for me, but that's how I feel too. PC Geek, security is relative, depends on how much you set up, how you set stuff up really. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's kind of the game I play in my head. What I just kind of explained on how I decide what's an IoT device, and what's a little more trusted than an IoT device, and where do they live, if so. Although phones kind of break that paradigm for me, because that's really hard, really, really hard to do. Anyways, Hans Bauer. Hey, Tim, thank you for the hard work. Yeah, no problem. You have personally helped me a long way, sorry, my eyes are not working today. You helped me along a good way with your videos onto my question. Sorry, I cannot read today, and the light behind me is not helping. When I started to get a grip on Docker, I realized Kubernetes is way more interesting. Could you give me your thoughts on which one I should focus on to learn? I'm starting out, so I need to pick something. The cluster side of Kubernetes is really pulling me in, but the ease of use as Docker is also very appealing, and it simply works. Whoa, I think you summarized it right there. I think you 100% summarized the internal struggle that I even have, that a lot of people have, on whether or not to run, Docker or Kubernetes. I will say though that I think if you're stuck between those two choices, you can't lose. You can't lose because you've already made the decision that you're going to containerize things, and I think that's a win. I think that's a win for many reasons that I say a lot of the time. So I won't beat a dead horse, but I think you can't lose if you choose between those two. And you're exactly right that the decision comes down to. I think the appealing thing for most people is clustering. They're like, oh, awesome! I can run a cluster of services, and that's how you think of Kubernetes. I can run, workloads that spin up on any node and provide this service. And if that node goes away, it'll appear somewhere else. Or if the container dies, it'll just appear somewhere else, and things will be fine, and things will continue to run. And that's kind of the romance, I guess, of Kubernetes. Whereas Docker has a lot of the same things, but it's going to be single node unless you go to Swarm. Where this gets confusing, and I think where the challenge is, and hopefully this is going to start to get solved more and more over time, is that how do you route to those applications? On Docker, it's super easy. You have one host, you have one node. The IP or DNS name, so it's on there, and you exposed it on a port, and you get to pick between, 50,000 ports. So it's like, okay, it's exposed here on this port. Kubernetes, it works a little bit different, because now you have a group of containers or a pod, it could be a pod of one, that now has a load balancer in front of it to expose services, in and out, and then has to be accessed from outside of the cluster sometimes, to be able to provide that service. So you have a couple layers to get through, and that's where, your ingress controller, things like Traefik can help you out, or Nginx, or there are a lot of solves for this, but they're pretty complex, and they take, a lot of knowledge or some really good copy and pasting and paying attention to make sure that they work. And then when they do work, it does kind of feel like magic, which, most of the time I'm okay with magic, but, I like to understand why things work a certain way, mainly so that I can repeat them in the future or troubleshoot them if they go wrong. It's really going to be up to you. I say this a lot, and it probably sounds cliche, but it's really going to be up to you and what you're comfortable with maintaining and supporting. If it's just for fun, I would say, go with Kubernetes first, because you'll kind of, you might feel a pain. You might feel a little bit of pain. I will say that, Docker is a great intro to Kubernetes, because you start to learn about networking, ports, exposing, ports on the inside, outside, environment variables. How do you do, bind mounting and volumes? That's not something I just even mentioned in Kubernetes. But you'll start to understand those concepts. If you already understand those and you really are, getting drawn into Kubernetes, give it a shot. But don't destroy your Docker machine or your Portainer machine or whatever's running Docker. Keep that there. They can both live. It's totally fine. But again, like even on Kubernetes, it's this idea of going from one to many. And that's a huge leap. That's a huge leap for services. That's a huge leap for networking. That's a huge leap even for storage, I didn't mention. And so when you go from, one container to many containers, then you have to figure out those problems or solve those challenges. You have to solve storage. How does it know where to mount storage from? I mean, there are things to help you like Longhorn or NFS Client Provisioner that will give you storage cluster wide because you don't want to bind mount when you're in a Kubernetes cluster because it might spin up on another node which might not have those files anymore, right? And so you'll have to figure that out. Same with networking, same with ingress, same with a lot of these things. And so yeah, I mean, personally, I went for it. I was in that same boat. I did Docker for a long time. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a grind. It was a grind. It was tough. I didn't have a lot of resources, and it was just kind of me figuring this out on my own for a long time. I mean, yes, we used it at work, but I was a customer or a tenant of Kubernetes. I wasn't an operator, or I didn't know the ins and outs, and so. This might be a chance for you to learn those ins and outs and learn how to be a Kubernetes operator, even if you don't want to be. But when things go wrong, you got to troubleshoot them differently too. You got to look at, you might have to go into a terminal like you would on Docker, but you're doing kube control commands, you're having it describe pods to you, you're looking at logs, then you're looking at maybe logs for different pods. And so, it's just a very different set of, it's a different mindset going from one to many, as it is with lots of things. And you got to figure out concurrency and stuff too. Like, one pod, if you have a set of services that are have some kind of state in them, you're going to need some external state. And that might not make sense now, but if you think of it like, you had two services that were, a counter, and the counter increments on one and it doesn't increment on the other. How do those two communicate that? Usually it's with backend or messaging or something like that, but those are all things you got to figure out. When you have one pod, totally easy, because that one pod maintains the state. Real quick, Tech with Drew. Tech with Drew. What am I even saying? Tech with Andrew. Dude, thank you so much. Prime, 2 months, 1 month streak. Thank you so much. Finally able to catch a live stream. Thank you so much. Tech with Andrew. Thank you. Pella Blanc. Thanks for the fall. Appreciate it. But Tech with Andrew, thank you so much, dude. Appreciate it. Anyways, Hans Burr. Yeah, I think you got a lot of figuring out to do. I would say try them both. I would say start with Docker. And then if you think you've got Docker under your belt and you want to scale out some services or give some of your services more availability than just one, go for it. Because if you think about it, Docker, anytime you patch that machine, all your services are going down because most likely there's going to be a Docker update in those patches. So when you patch it, the service stops, service restarts, they spin back up super fast. But still, they go down. And, with Kubernetes, they may or may not. It just depends. They may or may not, just depending on how many, how high you scale that pod, and then how quickly they'll jump to another node. But these are all good things, all things, I think you'll have to figure out over time. But for me, I start out with Docker, went to Kubernetes, and I still do both. As you've heard through most of the stream, I do both. And I apply, now I have a lens that I look through things, and I try to decide, where does this go based on what access does it need? And so because my network is segmented in a certain way, it helps me decide where they go and where they live. So, but that might not be the case with you. So Zanzid, I'm going with that. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Ticano, also got a KZZSN Pro X's. Whoa, sounds great for the $25 I paid. Oh, the earbuds you were talking about. Yeah, nice, dude. I'll have to check them out. I saw, I think that's what you're talking about. I saw them in Discord. I got to look into what they are. Because I'm not too familiar with those. Toxic Killer, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. D. Smith, I have a portable AC unit in the room that has the servers. I've thought about that too. I've definitely considered that. My servers are in a certain spot in the basement. Our basement's unfinished, so I'm kind of fortunate. in the winter because it's pretty cold down there. But I was just thinking, next house, how do I get that hot air out in the in the summer, like in the spring now? It's going to start warming up, and then I'm not, I'm warming up the house, but then cooling it off with AC. This goes back to this whole heating, cooling stuff inside and outside. But during the cold, during the winter, I want to get that warm air out. Even during I guess the summer too, or pull the cold air in during the winter. I guess I don't know. I'm not an HVAC person, but I just need to maintain a certain temperature without using a lot of power. I'd love to figure it out. Batju, 23, finishing my master thesis, then prepping my robotics PhD work. Glad I found your channel. Hey, thanks. Wow, that sounds interesting. Sounds awesome. PhD work on robotics. That sounds super awesome. Takano, I know this is not really your password, but if it is, it's fantastic. That is fantastic password. I know it's not your real one. I know you're trying to troll me, but look at that. That is great. I mean, there's line breaks. It takes up 4 rows. I don't even know how many characters that is. I'm going with 64. Totally guessing. But yeah. Sergio boys. What's up, Techno Tim? Sudo. Oh, yeah, Sudo. Oh, I said Sudo. Sudo. What's up, man? How's it going? Takano, yeah. There's no way that's your password, man. But if it is, it's awesome. At the same time, you should probably change it. But then again, we don't know what it's for, so keep it. If it's for Twitch, you should probably change it 100%. You should probably change it either way. Oh, no, that just happened to Craft too. The password? Wait. Oh, what am I missing? Good luck, Batju. Yeah, good luck on your thesis for sure. Budney, disk fault. Oh, the double disk fault. Yeah, disk fault stink. I'm worried about that with my upcoming TrueNAS VM and Proxmox. I'm being used for drives now. I'm using used drives for now. Sorry. Again, my eyes are not agreeing with me today. Yeah, the double disk fault. Yeah, I saw it happen to Kraft. I was gonna recap and see what he learned, but it's kind of driving me crazy. And it's only been since the last update. I'm not saying it has anything to do with TrueNAS. It could be my disks, but it's kind of driving me crazy, but at the same time, kind of scaring me. But I have an on-site backup of 4 or 5 terabytes of stuff. The rest I can get from the cloud later. But at the same time, it's not how I want to spend my Saturday and Sunday, for sure. PC Geek, doesn't Unify still use wireless for the backend when it's... does Unify still use wireless for the backend when it's a true mesh network? I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. Like my TP-Link Omadas are not mesh because I'm using wire connection for the backend. It's basically just AP roaming. Oh, interesting. I'm not sure. I mean, I know they support mesh, but how they actually do it, I haven't looked into it. I actually looked at the toggle today because I was trying to figure out why my doorbell today kept disconnecting. So I see the toggle there, but I don't know the implementation. I should look into it. Raphael Shayashi, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Intellectual play space. I like this. Payday can't come here fast enough. I need so much crap for the lab. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. It's easy. It's easy to get carried away for sure. Sir Andrew, Unify is awesome, but the UDM Pro is not the best in their category. Yeah, I hear that a lot. I've honestly been pretty happy with it. But it's because I don't know. I've done the other stuff for a long time, and that it hosts my network controller along with my my cloud key and stuff like that, and even does my camera. So I'm kind of like, ooh, this is kind of nice, at least for me, and saving a ton of power doing it because I cannot believe how much they could do in so little wattage. PC Geek agreed. USG Pro is better from what I've heard. Yeah. Totally agree. It just depends. I mean, I'm now taking advantage of everything besides talk and access. I've been more than happy with it. More than happy. Rodison, I am new to using servers at home and wanted extra storage. I was thinking a NetApp DS4246. I know that. Disk array shelf with 24 SAS SATA. Is it compatible with the Dell R720 and is some way easy to get it going? It's compatible with anything, as long as you have an HBA controller. And so I did that same exact thing. That's my same exact setup, except for it was connected to an R710. And so really all you need is a PCI Express slot along with an HBA controller. I have an LSI one somewhere that I can probably recommend, the right cable, and you're done. Obviously you need to, pass through storage or do whatever you're going to do. But the way you connect it to a server in general is going to be an HBA controller with the right cable, and it works. As you can tell from this stream, I was talking earlier, I'm having disk problems. I don't think it's my disk shelf. Could be. I honestly think it's my disks or something with the TrueNAS update. I don't know. Ever since that update, weird stuff. Myral, I've been had a failing drive one night some months ago. The beeping of the adaptive RAID controller kicked me straight out of bed. Yeah, I can relate. Mine doesn't beep. I get an email alert. One of the few email alerts I get that I actually get a notification for that freaks me out. It's happened about 6 times already this morning, and I'm just like, oh gosh, there's 2. 3 is about all I can take. After that, I'm restoring from my other server and from the cloud. Not fun. Yeah, not fun. The other thing that gets me out of bed is if I hear one of my UPSs go off too. That's something where I'm like, what is going on? I automatically think like water or we lost power, but yeah, for sure. PC Geek, yeah, should work with your server. Just need HBA controller connected for sure. Sir Andrix, have used a USG in the past, and yes, it's the same piece. Yeah. PC Geek, thank you. Just have to work out how to get it to work out. Yeah, Rodison, I have a video on it, how to hook it up, how to connect. Do I talk about how to connect it? I don't know. I talk about how to virtualize TrueNAS, and I talk about the parts that you need. The disk array shelf is the hardest one to acquire. All the other ones are super easy. It's eBay or Amazon for the cables and card. But if you can find one of those disk shelves at a reasonable price, they fluctuate anywhere from, I've seen $250 to $400. If you can get it under $3, I think that's pretty decent. If you can get it for a lot less than that, that's pretty decent too. That's more than pretty decent. PC Geek, not too hard. If you run into troubles, yeah, hit us up in Discord. Thank you. Maybe the thumbs down was a misclick. I doubt it. So, I get them sometimes. Let me see. You guys are talking about that. There's a lot of ads. Techno Tim, YouTube should make it mandatory when you have when you comment the thumbs down. Oh yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I was just kind of being a little snarky. I'm totally fine. If people, like I said, people can thumbs down for any reason, and I'm totally fine with it. I would love to know why. And the why's not like so I can convince you to change it. It's more so, well, how can I make it better next time? If it's just thumbs down because I don't like you, I can't really change that, nor would I. But if it's thumb down because it's like, hey, this piece didn't feel right, or this part was wrong, yeah, I would love to fix that. Love to fix it. Just the one the creator can see. Yeah, that's a great idea too. Great idea. No, don't cross the streams, Ghostbusters. Yeah, totally. Don't cross the streams until you have to, because at the end, they had to cross the streams to defeat Ghoul, right? Or Ganon? Or Ghoul. No, what am I talking about? I'm crossing my references now with Legend of Zelda. Blade Dev. As a new coder, all these terms are just, well, yeah, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I know that's a barrier to entry to a lot of tech too, and a lot of software development is just the lingo, sometimes acronyms, and then especially when you get into frameworks and languages, that can be a barrier to entry. If at any time you don't understand what I'm saying, ask me. Ask me what it is. Don't feel dumb, because I was there for a long time. I made the switch to a software developer. And I was just, for a couple months, I was like, I have no idea what anyone is even saying. Like, I can write some code, but I'm not familiar with this framework. I'm not familiar with this pattern. I'm not familiar with this pattern name, and so don't ever feel bad if you need to ask someone. If you're ever I would encourage you always too. If you're ever in meetings at work and people are using, either languages or frameworks or patterns or just names in general that you aren't really familiar with, or even terms, I would encourage you to ask. Because a lot of times I remember being in some of those meetings and I was like, I'm not asking. But then after, the second or third meeting, I'm like, I wish I would have asked earlier because now I wouldn't have missed out on all this stuff. I encourage you to inquire for sure. Matt Game, I work on Portainer and Nginx Proxy Manager now. Nice. Yeah, for sure. Akales, nice, Tim. Give all peeps time. Yeah, for sure. Alphabet soup. It totally is. It totally is. Kai, have y'all used Citrix or similar software when you try to use stuff on random PCs or friends? For example, I haven't used Citrix in a long time. I haven't used anything Citrix in a long time. It was a company I worked for used Citrix. It was pretty awesome to get, telnet services, or basically thin installed apps to run on other machines. I think it's basically remote services behind the scene, terminal services, but I haven't used it in a long time. It would be fun. It would be fun to get back into that, but I haven't had a chance. Like some terminal server uses type use case. Yeah. It's, I guess exactly what I was talking about. Yeah, I haven't. You can do that with Windows Pro. It's called Remote App Profiles, I think. It's nice. It uses RDP technology, but runs specific applications. Very similar to Citrix. Yeah, that's exactly how I remember Citrix. That's how we used it. A lot of our medical software that this company I work for ran on servers. And so we used Citrix. We had a Citrix ICA client. Biggest pain in the butt ever to configure. But we get it set up, point it at a server farm, and boom. And they would sign in with their AD credentials, and they would see all their apps. Sometimes you'd have to do a lot of magic to get it to refresh. Sometimes you'd see the app, sometimes you wouldn't. Sometimes you'd see the wrong apps. Got to add them to AD groups, that whole thing. But at the end of the day, it was super awesome tech. I think a lot of companies have shifted to web instead of that, but sometimes web isn't powerful enough or can do the things that a terminal service apps can do, and So anyways, it's still used a lot in the medical field, at least from what I see when I go to the doctor's office. I'm always peeking at their computer like, oh, what software is that? Okay. Oh, that's cool. That kind of seems weird. Why are they clicking on that thing? How many times you got to click that button? I always look over the shoulder of everyone, any system I see, anywhere, because I just love to see interfaces and then see what software they're using. It's super interesting stuff. John Don Norris. That's tough to say. Are you not worried about any unpublished exploits with consumer level IoT devices? Am I not worried about it? I mean, I'm always worried. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think about it. But at the same time, I mean, what's the alternative? Not use any IoT devices? So for me, that's, I don't want to live in that world where I'm like, I'm not getting any IoT devices because there could possibly be an exploit one day. I think what I've been doing is trying to protect myself if that day comes or if that happens. And so I've done things like segment my network. I have an IoT network that's only for those devices. And arguably, if one of those devices had some kind of exploit and somebody got on it, sure, they could go and query my other IoT devices, or they could try to query my Xbox or whatever's on the IoT network. I haven't fully isolated devices within that network, but that network itself is fully isolated from the rest of my network, as well as the wireless network that I broadcast here. It's tied to that same VLAN. So I think, and then obviously I have threat protection on the edge and, Pi-hole, DNS blocking, all that. So I think the only thing, in general you can do is try to mitigate it rather than avoid it. Hey, Arg Jolan, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. No, that's a sub, dude. Thank you so much. Subscribe, Prime sub. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for spending your Prime sub on me. Thank you. So I think, and then real quick, John DeNorris, I'm going with that. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. But I think the only thing you can do is just try to mitigate most risks, if you want to live in this world. I mean, you could say the same thing about choice of browsers, choice of operating systems, being on the internet as a whole, choosing products that have exploits or attacks or that are targeted or haven't been patched. And so you kind of run into this a lot. I will say, I'm not, maybe this is a pitch for Home Assistant, but you could totally go offline too on your IoT devices too. and use something like Home Assistant, or even, Apple's doing a lot of this too, where the devices communicate with a centralized hub, which is home device, and then they're totally offline. And so, and that's not to say you're 100% protected, but then, you could take them, you can take the internet out of the equation with some of your IoT devices too. Obviously not something you could do for every device, but if you look at Home Assistant, they're figuring it out for almost every device. So, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I want to just say, protect yourself the best way you can. And then, kind of hope for the best. And then if, there are companies with IoT devices that aren't releasing patches, aren't being fully transparent about either exploits or you see them not updating firmware for years, maybe look at another vendor. And I know it kind of stinks to say, you know what, I have 35 Wemo devices, making this up, pretty close. But if one day they were just like, yeah, we're not going to patch any of these devices again, you know what, I'll put my money elsewhere. You know what I mean? Fortunately, they've been patching their stuff. And so, I see firmware updates most of the time like, hey, this company still cares about this device. If I stop seeing those firmware updates, I'm like, this company doesn't care about this device anymore. There's no way it's perfect. And so, those are just kind of the things that go through in, the evaluation I do in my head. Anyways, I wouldn't say, there's exploits on everything. It's only going to get worse. And it's not going to get any easier. And it's not going to suck any less if it happens to a device you have. I think you just have to then protect yourself or mitigate those risks, or mitigate as many risks as you possibly can within your own home network, or avoid it altogether. And I'm going with the former than the latter, because I kind of like a connected world. Anyways, that's my spiel. Miguel, hey Tim, how's it going? Thank you. How's it going? How are you? PC Geek, my Wi-Fi is never slow. Yeah, I rarely have that problem. If I do, it's the internet, and Wi-Fi gets blamed for it, but it's usually my ISP. Something's going on. It's flawless. Oh, yeah, PC Geek. All right. Now you're pushing it. 10K challenge. Yeah, put a big ticker behind you on the wall. Yeah, honestly, I'll show you. I was thinking about putting a big marquee across the top. It's totally a geek thing. But I was basically going to get 3 or 4, depending on how many of those same panels right there. You can see the Discord icon lighting up. Can't tell it's a Discord icon, but I know it is because I chose the GIF. But I was thinking about getting 4 that go across the back for whatever reason. Because 1, I want to, because it'd be cool. And 2, I get to actually build something, some hardware, includes Raspberry Pis, and then I get to write the software that runs on it too. Like I wrote a lot of that software that runs on there. So that's kind of what I want to do. I want it to go across the top. And then maybe if I get to that point, I'll have something where you could do the 10K. Hey, maybe I should just let you 10K points flash the lights. But anyways, yeah, I like the ideas. Keep them coming. Herman, thank you so much. Herman VC, subscribe, Prime sub. Thank you so much. Thanks for spending your Prime sub on me. I appreciate it. PC Geek. Also, you can accidentally overfill and be like, why I did buy all this crap. Yeah. I hear you. I went down that path for a little bit, and then I kind of reconsolidated, and I still have a lot of stuff. I ran out of rack space, but then I moved to one use, and now I have empty holes in my rack, and now I'm like, how do I fill these again? I'm like, wait, I'm going to be exactly where I was before. Just take a chill pill. Gags, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Ilude, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. How are you doing? Sorry, just doing a little time check. PC Geek, go both ways. That's what she said. Yeah, I go both ways with Portainer and Docker and Kubernetes. I think that was the reference, right? Intellectual play space. Opinions on MikroTik as a home lab router. Fantastic. You can't go wrong. Affordable, seems pretty good. I don't have any experience, but I know they're super popular. I haven't heard a bad thing about them. Super affordable, good software, good features. You're getting a lot of capability and a great value in that device. That seems to be the theme, and I haven't heard one bad thing about them. I'm sure people will bring up bad things about them, but MikroTik in general, it's definitely a crowd favorite. Unify is, you get boos and hisses in there. MikroTik, you get crickets because people are like, yeah, it's pretty good, pretty good. But yeah, I don't have any experience. I would love to mix in some of that stuff someday, but haven't had any experience. Tons of people who have them. In general, lots of people in a Discord and lots of people in the channel too. Let's see. Night Scout is open code on GitHub. All right, Diabetes Tech. All right, I'm there with you, man. Dude, ping me in Discord. We'll figure it out. We'll get it in a container. No problem at all. No problem at all. If it is Node.js and it's open source code, 100% I will help you get this going for you and your family and your daughter. So just ping me in Discord. We'll get it in a container. If they don't have a container, I'll build it in Docker myself and push it up to Docker Hub. So all you got to do is pull it down if that's what it takes. So yeah, for sure, man. PC Geek, when it comes to YAML, just say no. Yeah. I kind of agree, and it's funny because I poke so much fun at YAML, but then I write JSON all the time. And if you don't know what JSON is, it's JavaScript object notation. It's a lot of quotes, a lot of curly brackets, a lot of colons, a lot of keys. It's basically like one big object. And so I poke fun all the time at YAML. But then I think I write JSON all the time and it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts sometimes. Just, okay, I got to close the quote here. Okay, where does this key go? Oh, it's an open quote, more curly brackets. So, they're at the end of the day, they're trying to express the same thing, either objects or data in a file, in a markup language. So it can be used, but yeah, it's fun to poke fun at YAML for sure. Hey, Titan, Cariote. Hey, thanks for the follow. Thanks for the Prime sub. Thanks for using Prime sub on me. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. But yeah, Diabetes Tech, ping me in Discord, 100%. We'll containerize it. Give me a couple days, and like I said, if they don't have a container for it, I'll push it to my own personal Docker Hub, and you can pull it down. So yeah, for sure. Let's get it going. Sir Andrex, sempre, Tuga proud. I have no idea what I'm saying. Hopefully it's good things. Good things. iLude, error, invalid spacing before no keyword. No, yeah. It does drive me crazy. It does drive me crazy. And, especially when I create documentation, it's in YAML and I didn't, have one space off and it won't work. It's kind of like, oh, really, YAML validator? You couldn't just fix that for me? And I know my tools here that I have here now, actually, Red Hat has a fantastic YAML validator in VS Code. If you use VS Code, just search the marketplace for YAML. The Red Hat validator that comes up is fantastic. I don't know how I lived without this, but if you're not using an editor and you're using a terminal or a terminal editor, good luck. Good luck with that. Hey, Noreen, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Marco, hello. How's it going? PC Geek, new movement, YAML white space matters. It does matter. It does matter with, absolutely matters with YAML. Kind of, yeah. It's super picky about it too. But like you said, if you're using VS Code, look for Red Hat's YAML validator. It's fantastic. It'll even validate schemas too. For Kubernetes and cool stuff like that. So not only just hey, is it valid YAML syntax? Are the things that you're actually using valid keys on that object or whatever you're using, whatever your data object or your data model looks like, it'll actually validate those two if it understands it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool stuff. It saved me a few times with Kubernetes. It's like, hey, you have duplicate keys here, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do. A normal YAML validator wouldn't normally tell me that. And then the bad thing is when I did do that, the last wins, and hopefully the last key that I wrote was the right key. But yeah, it's super nice. Use VS Code. I'm sure it's there for other editors too. Let's see. Tented Bob, Cat Gamer. Hello there. How's it going? Nice. Yeah. InfoSec Daddy. The only thing I want MS Windows for is Active Directory. Yeah. Yeah, I can relate. But I mean, I want Windows for compatibility too. I want Windows for gaming. I can't say only AD because I don't only do AD. Actually, I don't do any AD. But I can see that absolutely. They totally dominate when it comes to directory services. They dominate when it comes to gaming and stuff too. We'll see if that holds out. But yeah, the compatibility with software too is something I just, enjoy from Windows quite a bit. And, most things are on Windows. It was only until recently when, a developer started not using Windows that Microsoft finally decided, oh, we need to do stuff for developers too. And I don't know. I've been a fan of Windows my whole life. Same, but I use Mac and Linux all the time. It's Mac by day, Windows by night, and Linux 24/7, 365 in my servers. But, Microsoft's been focusing more on developers, and it's actually, I finally made the jump to WSL2. They finally fixed a lot of their weird networking stuff. They still haven't fixed their search domains for DNS. Kind of drives me crazy, but hey, it's better than creating firewall rules and stuff like that. And now my Windows machine in a terminal in WSL is as fast as my Mac. And now I'm kind of like, okay. Okay, do I still need my Mac? And I do, because I build Mac apps, not Mac apps, but iOS apps. But I'm like, okay, this is really turning into a decent development machine. Anyways, Windows is multifaceted. I love bits and pieces of it, lots of bits and pieces of it. And then there's a lot of legacy stuff where I'm kind of like, I don't like that so much. But yeah, Active Directory, they're still killing it. I mean, arguably even in Office. I mean, it's their cash cow. It probably makes so much money still on Office, even though, there are things like Google Docs and Open Office and New Office and all these other Office spin-offs that are open source. They still crush it, with Microsoft Office. And I think it's because a lot of people use, they either want high fidelity Word docs or they want picture perfect, PowerPoint, or they use Outlook. And that's kind of the hook that gets them in. Tented Bobcat Gamer, new follower alert. Nice. Thank you. Yeah, the spinning Mario Luigi. Found that a long time ago when I started streaming on Twitch. I'm like, yeah, that's totally mine. And so I have a Mario. I have a Contra guy that you'll probably never see unless someone raids me. Link, you name it. Mega Man, they're all in there. You got to discover them. Ilude, Tented Bobcat sounds like something from NASA code word generator. I like it. Yeah. Yeah, I keep thinking of Bobcat the comedian though, the really crazy guy. Oh, he used to crack me up. Just his voice in general. Salvarius, okay, I question you reasoning on giving the PC Geek mod powers. Yeah. No, he's fantastic. He's great. InfoSec Daddy, Tim, I have configured VLAN on Proxmox yet. So I think that's a question, InfoSec Daddy. Maybe it's a question. It looks like a statement, but I'll take it like a question. Yeah, I use VLANs on Proxmox. Yep, absolutely I do. I made my what is it called? My Linux Bond VLAN aware, and then so any of my guests can actually take advantage of a VLAN. I think I just supply the tag, the number, the VLAN ID that it gets tagged with, and then my virtual machines will listen for that tag. So yeah, I use them, maybe improperly, but they've been working fantastic. Ilude, we all to every day. Wait, what? We all to every day. Okay. The choice between Kubernetes and Docker is like the Oracle and the Matrix. You have already made the choice. You just have to understand it. I like it. Yeah. I think that Docker is definitely a gateway. It's a gateway into Kubernetes, and it's like, how far down there do you want to go? How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go when it comes to containers? The cool thing is that I won't spend a ton of time on Kubernetes, but it's kind of the de facto standard for a lot of enterprises for running workloads and containers, especially in public or in the cloud, and so. If you spend some time learning it, I don't think it'll be wasted at all. As it wouldn't with Docker either, because it's foundational. If Docker didn't exist, something else might spin up that's like it, but they wouldn't have understood some of the pain points, or they wouldn't have understood or understood that they want to scale or how to scale with containers, and how do you do health checks, and how do you do ready checks and probes and load balancing with containers. And I think it just builds on top of that. So yeah, you can go as far as you want to go with that stuff. Yeah, Tim has VLAN set up. Yeah. He did a video on it. Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, my 11 things on Proxmox. I talk about how I set up my VLANs. Right or wrong, if I'm doing it wrong, let me know. But that's how it works for me. I set up lag or NIC bonding on my servers, and then from there I create a Linux bond, and then from there I make that Linux bond VLAN aware, and then from there I make my guests. I assign them to VLAN. So it's actually a lot easier. You don't have to do any of that. You actually add one line of config, I think, to your networking config that's like VLAN aware yes or VLAN aware true. Reboot the thing and you're good to go. And then just make sure that that's on a network that, is either a trunk, I think is the right term. I'm not a network administrator, but that has access to all of those VLANs or some of those VLANs, and then make those VLANs available to that guest. And it's super. I don't know why I waited so long to do it. Actually, I do, because I didn't have VLANs to begin with, and I did everything by subnet. But now that I have them, it's great. It's great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you guys are on it. Thank you so much. Let's see. Need to reattempt getting Proxmox node lagged. Yeah, it's you can do it. I totally agree, Piece of Geek. You can do it. It's not as painful as you think. pfSense switch, no problems. Sinobox to switch, no problem. PVE to switch. WTF is wrong here, Sulfurious. Oh man. So PVE to switch. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Good luck with that. Yeah, it should just work. Trixif. What is Kubernetes and Docker? Oh man, Kubernetes and Docker. High level, Docker is a way to containerize applications or containerize workloads. Most of the time, it's a single service or a single process. So if you think of, this is probably the wrong metaphor or wrong analogy. If you think of virtualizing an operating system, even though you're not virtualizing, you're abstracting, that operating system or that virtual machine from the host OS. With Docker, you're kind of doing that at the process level, and it's not virtualization, but the same kind of idea where you're putting this process inside of a container. You're putting some boundaries around it with networking and letting that process run on another server. And the cool thing is that you can pack all your dependencies in that container, and then for the most part, besides Linux or whatever Docker requires, that process can run anywhere. As long as it can run Docker, it can run anywhere. Arguably, it just there are some gotchas there, but that's pretty much what Docker is. Putting things in a container or processes in a container, creating virtual networks, and creating volumes as containers too, so that they can be shipped anywhere, so they can spin up anywhere, anywhere you'd like them to. And I'm over exaggerating and probably overstating how simple it is, but for the most part, it's a lot simpler than the alternative, which is, hey, go install this process, go install if it's Windows, all registry keys. You think of everything that can go wrong, or all the dependencies you would need to get something running. You pack that in the container and you ship it anywhere. That's why it's Docker and container. I think that's why they branded it that way. Kubernetes is it's that at scale. So how do you scale out containers? How do you do networking for containers at scale? How do you do storage for containers at scale? Everything you can think about from when you go to one to many. And probably not a great description of what they are, but that's kind of how I think of them. Kai, I think you should go with Docker when you want to spend more time on the apps and you want to spin up and you just want it to run. Yeah, I totally agree. Kubernetes when you actually want to invest time to the infrastructure first. Yeah, it's great. 100% agree. If you just want to hurry up and spin up, I don't want to say hurry up because it does take time too and a little bit of planning. But if you want to get something running that's rock solid, that you're not going to have someone knocking on your door saying, why is Jellyfin down or what's going on with DNS, or they probably wouldn't say DNS. They would just say the internet doesn't work. And you have some critical services in your home you want to run. Yeah, Docker is fantastic. Go that route. And I totally agree with this guy. If you have some time to invest and want to learn, spin up a Kubernetes cluster. But when you do that, there are requirements. You can do single node Kubernetes, but minimum, it depends. But you're looking at 4-ish servers, depending on how you configure it. I mean, arguably you could do it with less, but roughly about 4 virtual machines or 4 physical servers, however you look at it, that you need infrastructure for. So yeah, a great comment. Great observation too. Yeah, totally. What are we talking about? All kinds of stuff. We are. Dude is like 20 minutes behind. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up. And honestly, I do have to wrap it up. I'm like hitting my normal time. And I said it was going to be earlier, but I end up I love talking about this. This is my one time a week when I get to talk about this kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, you see it in videos, but it's me talking at a screen. This is more like engaging with you. So I really enjoy it. So I'm going to look for, every time I say this is more mentions. I'm going to scan the comments because I do need to kind of wrap things up. We are always threatened with the short term. Just haven't seen it. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's just going to get worse. Tomat Graph Tech Solutions. Tomat Graph Solution. I'm going with that. Hi, Tim. First time following your live stream. Thank you. I'm a big fan of your high-level content. Thank you. Learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you. That's me thanking you, thanking me. What you think of compromised public images on Docker hubs, viruses, backdoors? What images can you trust from a production environment? Yeah, good question. I'm going to grab a drink because this might take a second. This is what happens. This is why I can't leave because I love these topics. So what do I think about compromised public images on Docker Hub? Yeah. So great question. So if you don't understand that, it's like, okay, so you use a Docker image, say like Nginx. I'm going to pick on Nginx, and you trust Nginx. You trust that the people putting code into Nginx are putting things that don't have vulnerabilities. They don't attend attend the University of Minnesota, if you saw that article, and you trust that image doesn't have any vulnerabilities. I mean, that's a point in time that can always change. But how do you protect yourself from that? That's really tough. The best guidance that I can get is, and this is something I try to follow, is 1, use official images. Anytime you can, anytime possible. And I'm not saying that like, hey, name some other Joe Schmo, a GitHub that built this Docker image. I'm not saying that that's not safe, but I am saying that a lot of the trusted images on Docker get scanned for vulnerabilities. Like there's processes put in place, not only for how they release images, but what happens in the background that you don't see, like vulnerability scanning, like all of these different things. So my biggest suggestion there is first use trusted images. Use I've said it a few times, but use images that are from the source themselves. The next thing you can a conscious decision that you can make to limit your attack vector is use the Alpine version or use the Slim or use the smallest image you can. And this isn't a space savings play. This isn't a play to say, yeah, you can use less RAM. It's a play to say that, you may not need everything that's in that container. And so classic example, real quick, Silent, thanks for follow, appreciate it. Classic example, I use Node a lot, right? So I use the Node image. That Node image has tons of stuff in it. It has lots of network utilities. It has lots of, additional features like Yarn and all of these things that I don't need when it's actually running in my environment. So I end up choosing the Alpine version of the image right before at the end of my Docker file. When I put my custom code in, I say use the Alpine image of Node because I don't want anything else. And again, that's not a space savings play. It's just to say it's not including binaries that could also have vulnerabilities in it, right? So it's a lot less dependencies that you're pulling in and putting into your image that could then also have a vulnerability. And then what happens? So then what happens if it's compromised? That's tough. I think that millions of people are in the same boat as you. And you can just only, I think you have to go into how would you mitigate that? And you can't go with how can you protect yourself from that forever? Because it's going to happen. I mean, it's happened with NPM modules. It's happened with any dependency you can think of. It's happened at some point. When that target is big enough, someone's going to figure out how to do it. Someone's going to figure out how to, run a Bitcoin miner on every machine possible, or go after, PDFs because everyone in the whole entire world uses PDFs. I'm calling out things that have already happened. because they're big targets. And so you can't always focus on like, well, how can I just not have that happen? Because it might happen. So then you have to mitigate your risk. How do you mitigate that? Well, if it's images, you have to isolate them, make sure they're not running as root. Make sure that host that it's running on doesn't have access to other things on your network that might be compromised or communicate with. If that's not an option, make sure the things that it can communicate with have passwords on them. They're not wide open. They're not shared passwords, like all the normal things you do. And so there's no one fix. It's layer on all the fixes that you've learned, either from managing machines or managing networks. It's layering on all of those security practices. And so, I think the best we can do is mitigate risks. What happens when that happens? And so in Kubernetes, you can do things. You can use things like Istio to limit the networks or containers that certain containers can talk to. But you could also do that with namespacing and segregating that traffic or those containers from communicating with other containers. And so again, it's not always going to just be, well, we're not going to use Nginx. It's going to be, well, if something was able to break out of this container, what could it do? And so think of those possibilities and then mitigate that. If someone broke out of my Nginx container, then I'd say, okay, well, let's put it in its own namespace. So at least the things that it could communicate with are things that are not my personal stuff or doesn't have access to some storage, right? And so those are just the things you got to think about. And those are things I think about too. I don't have all the answers. I know that, Docker and containerization, containers in general just have a big target on their back right now. And there are companies trying to do things to help you with that. I mean, there are lots of security solutions out there to do, container scanning on your images to see, does this container or any layer in this container contain vulnerabilities since it's been built? And there are also things you could do, more, I guess, forensic type stuff you could do, or policy type stuff you could do, is put monitoring on those containers too and say, okay, has this container written to any file, or tried to write any additional files? Or has this, you apply heuristics then to that container to say, what has it been doing? Has it done anything out of the ordinary? Does it do things like the other containers? Why is this one Nginx container trying to write a file to the file system? That doesn't seem normal. Or why is it calling out on this weird port? Why is it calling out directly to the internet to somewhere else? And so those are things you got to apply too. I mean, it's if you think about it, I mean, a container, it's no different than some process that's running. Name your nginx.exe. I'm making this up, but just think of how you would protect yourself if nginx.exe. I'm saying that because maybe you can relate to it if you run Windows. How would you protect yourself on your network if that thing was a vulnerability or was doing some things that were out of the ordinary? And so containers are the same way. You spin up a container, it's a process that's running in there. Obviously, it's a little bit separated from the host itself, but not always. Anyways, yeah, that's a huge topic. I love thinking about it. I've been doing some research on my own personally too and professionally on this topic. So it's super interesting to think about. And new products and new ways are popping up all the time because it's a huge target. Just like I mentioned earlier, PDFs, PDF was a huge target. Flash was a huge target. Windows is a huge target. Macs are now a huge target. iPhones are a huge target. Android's a huge target. Anything where you have that much scale is a great platform to try to chip away at and to try to attack. The same with containers now, because everyone's putting everything in containers into Kubernetes. And so, people are probably looking for ways to slip in things to those containers all the time. But that's all I got. I mean, I could talk about it all day and we could ideate on how to better mitigate, but those are the things that I'm thinking about too. So yeah, great question. Sorry, I went on that for a long time and I'm the one that keeps saying like, I got to wrap it up. And then I talk for 10 minutes about a topic, but all right, I'm going. Yeah, for sure. LinuxServer.io, and I didn't want to call them out specifically because like that kind of breaks my paradigm of saying like use official images unless it's LinuxServer.io. But I know absolutely, I totally agree that they're huge. They're huge in this space, and they're not doing anything wrong, and they're actually doing a lot of right because they're patching the base systems that those processes run on sooner than those code maintainers can. And so LinuxServer.io, they have CI systems in place. They're patching that base image that those containers run on a lot faster than the original maintainer can. So, here's a case where I would say, yeah, absolutely. LinuxServer.io, great choice. Because I know that when I get that container is going to be up to date. It's going to be patched. They have a common API for accessing things within that container, and it's fantastic. So that kind of, these are the things you're just going to have to decide. I mean, LinuxServer.io is a well-known name and trusted for sure. PuffTux, hey, thanks for the follow, or thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. Prime sub. Thank you so much. Thanks for spending your Prime sub on me. Appreciate it. Hey guys, I'm gonna look for direct mentions, and I wasn't gonna say that until I started scanning. I do apologize that I did get so far behind today. It's just that you guys have a lot of great topics, and I want to make sure that I address them. But then, here's the downside. Then I have to end up skipping some at the end, so I apologize. All right, I'm looking for ads. All right. I'm good. Hey guys, thank you so much. I apologize I went over. You probably didn't realize I went over because it's about normal time. So thank you so much for joining in. Thanks for spending time with me. That's number one. Thanks for your questions, your comments. Also, yeah, thanks for there were subs, there were follows in there. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It really helps. And yeah, thanks for, thank you guys. Yeah, so if you want to continue this conversation, absolutely you can. I would love to talk some more about this, or I'd love for you guys to share things you're thinking about, how we secure containers, how we secure our IoT, VLAN, even more than we have it now. I'd love to continue that conversation in Discord. I'd love you to share things you're working on, love you to share anything that you're even interested in. We have a Discord server that Techno, thank you for sharing. Lots of people shared that you can join. I encourage you to join because the conversation doesn't have to end in here. You can absolutely stay in the channel too and chat to people. I'm surprised that people still chat in the channel after I go offline. So that's awesome. But if you want it to be a little bit more persistent, join a Discord server. I can't recommend it enough. We've got a lot of great people, a lot of great mods, a lot of people in there who really care about a lot of this stuff and know a lot of stuff too. And it's not like what I say goes in there. I mean, we have people who are way smarter than me. Not that I'm even that smart in our Discord server who know a lot and have a lot of experience in a lot of these areas. So I can't say it enough. I'm fortunate enough for those people to be on my server, so I appreciate it. I will be back on Twitch in a week, and then I'll probably have something out this week, maybe on YouTube. And if you didn't, check out my latest video. I think it's pretty cool. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, when I was talking about Docker, Traefik, and reverse proxies, that's spoiler alert. It's all about that. So, hey, Jamie Mox, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Hey guys, have a great Saturday. Stay safe and be good to each other. Take care.